Hello there, I'm Stephen King, and I'm telling a little story for Pink Pages. Alice Hoffman asked me if I would do this, and she said, why don't you think of a little story that you can tell for the benefit of this organization that is funny or sad or uplifting, emotionally satisfying. In other words, it was pretty much of a blank page. And I thought a little bit about it and finally decided that I would tell a ghost story, since that's what I'm known for. I'm known for the spooky stuff. And this is a true story, and it's the only true ghost story I have that involves me. And it happened about 25 years ago, and I still remember it. Because, as I say, although I've written about these things for most of my life, this is the only experience that I ever had. And I make no claims for its veracity or for the truth of the paranormal element. I can just say that this is what happened to me. 25 years ago, in my hometown of Bangor, Maine, I went to a political fundraiser with my wife. It was very cold that night, winter, a typical Maine winter night. We were all bundled up, and it was one of these gab fest things where you're supposed to leave cash in a hat at the door. The big guest that night was Edmund Muskie, and he shook everybody's hand when they came in and made nice, of course. And the place was pretty crowded. It was a home on the west side of the city, and we came in, and somebody said, "Let me take your coats." And this person did. I think he was the teenage son of the host and hostess. And he took them upstairs. So we went in and we ate a few canapes, and we made the circle of the room and shook hands with everybody, and basically talked politics a little bit. And we weren't there too long enough to be social and to be polite. And then my wife kind of leaned over to me and said, "Steve, why don't we go?" So I said, all right, I think we'll go. We were going to pick up some Chinese food downtown and go back to the house, kick back a little bit and have some Chinese food. So I said, I'll get our coats. And I went upstairs, and there was a bedroom with a huge pile of coats on the bed. And so I started to go through the coats looking for mine. My head was bent down slightly so that I could look at what I was doing. And I realized that there was a man sitting in the corner between the wall and the bed. I saw him quite clearly in my peripheral vision, well enough so that all these years later I can describe him. He was a gentleman of about 70. He was wearing a blue pinstripe suit. He was bald with those sunspots on his pate that people get after a certain amount of exposure. And I became a little bit discomfited. I won't say nervous, but I will say discomfited, because it came to me that this man who was sitting there, more or less guarding the coats, might think that I was going through people's pockets and looking for wallets or spare cash, loose cash, whatever. And I said, it's a nice event, isn't it? It's kind of pleasant, but my wife and I are headed home, and gee, all these coats, and my wife's is here somewhere, and so is mine. And I found my wife's coat, and I pulled that out of the big pile of coats, and I found my hat, and I looked up, and there was no one there. Absolutely no one there. But I saw that man very clearly, And at the time, I don't think that I was frightened, and I don't think that I was in any way upset at the time. Later, I became uneasy about it, and I thought to myself, well, there was nowhere for him to go. There was no door there. He certainly didn't slip under the bed. But I saw someone. I saw this old man, and I've always wondered since then if he was a ghost or if he was some sort of an illusion. And it's one of those events that just sort of is a pebble that won't dissolve in your throat or in your mind. It's just there. So I've wondered since then who lived in that house, and if there was an old man who had passed on or something that might have been sitting in that corner, if maybe he might have even died in that very room. I don't know. All I know is that I got our coats, I got our hats, and I went downstairs. We said goodbye to Edmund Muskie, Senator Muskie, and we went out with our coats on and put on our hats. And I looked at my wife and I said, honey, I might have just seen a ghost. So that's my story. It's fairly prosaic, and yet at the same time, it's uneasy enough so that it's stuck in my mind through all those years. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it. Have a wonderful event, and give money to Pink Pages. Stephen King saying, so long, watch out for that man in the corner.